Hello everyone, my name is Egypt. I'm a part of the Marion University Priest Challenge. I am 20 years old and I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada. As a young child, my mother and my father took us to a church. We were considered Jehovah's Witnesses. And after 6 years of going, my father decided that we were no longer allowed to go. He grew obsessed with this idea of wanting to be my God. And I had this fear in me that I would never have God again. After 2 years of not longer being allowed to exit my own home and growing up sheltered, I began to sneak to church with my grandmother. When my father had found out, he became furious and he got into it with her, and I wasn't allowed to see her for a really long time. My father was a very abusive person. He brought a lot of distraught and pain to me throughout the years, and it wasn't until 2017 that I was able to get away. I moved to Indianapolis, Indiana, and I began to go to school for the first time. I began to meet friends, and I was super scared and super nervous. But I felt like I wasn't meant to be around. I went through a really depressive stage in my life, and I attempted to take my life too many times. I was in and out of the hospital because I truly felt unloved. I forgot that there was God with me. I knew I had God, but eventually I had lost Him. I'd lost my way to Him. I began high school in the year 2018, and I had met a friend who I ended up staying with for a really long time. He encouraged me to start attending church with him. I met his grandfather, Alexander Strickland, and attended One Body Ministries. As much as I loved being there, and as much as they took me in, I knew that that's not the church I needed to be in. I began to experience going to many different churches and trying out many different religions. The one I was scared to try was Catholic. I was always told that Catholics were very judgmental, and they were mean, and that they wouldn't accept me for who I was unless I converted to them. They began attending Arsenal Technical High School, where they had met a group of people called Underground. Underground is a youth ministry that was made by Vagabond Missions. When they had come home, they had asked me to attend, and at first I was extremely weary, like, no, I don't know if I should go, and I don't know if I should truly be there, and it took a lot of convincing, but I finally decided I would go. I told them that if I didn't like it, I wouldn't attend anymore. I continued to go after that. I introduced my son, and they took him in with warm welcoming arms. He was very happy and very loved, and they taught him things that I felt maybe I didn't have the ability to teach him. It was one Wednesday when they had said that they needed to go to church, and they'd asked if all we wanted to attend Mass with them. I didn't know what it was, but I was like, you know what? I've been to so many churches before. What's the difference now? I went and we sat 3 seats away on the right-hand side, away from the altar, at St. Philip Neri. I met Father DeFrame. He gave me a very big warm welcome before he attended and started Mass. When I had sat down, I felt this breeze hit me, like they do in the movies when ghosts pass through you. It was as if somebody was telling me that this is where I needed to be. And after attending Mass that day, I wanted to try and go again. I didn't want to give up, and I didn't. We fast forwarded to a year later, and I felt welcome where I was at. I began taking my son to church, and at first I was very wary about taking him because I felt that maybe he was too noisy, or maybe he was running around too much and they would get upset or something. And they didn't. It was really nice. This past week, we attended a youth camp, and I had learned something that had stuck with me for a really long time. I was told some years ago that when you walk into faith, you walk in blind. And when you are ready and you turn around, you can see again. We went ziplining, and I was super scared. And when I had jumped off for the final time, I jumped with my eyes open. I had prayed and prayed and was like, God, if this is the day I'm gonna fall and die, just tell me that now. And I didn't fall and die. But we had a session at the end. And I had remembered from earlier in the day that there was something in that moment that was gonna stick with us. And it was the parable about a blind man. And Jesus had told him, go your way, for your faith has saved you. And it stuck with me. I walked into my faith through so many years, knowing that I couldn't see. And that day I turned around and I could. We came back, and this Sunday, I had received all of my blessings. I had my sacrament, I received communion, and as did my son. He's a very big part of my life, and I was glad that I am able to raise him in the Catholic Church, knowing that he is loved not only by the church, but by the community around him and the people that are there for him. I want to continue going on knowing that he's going to grow up with having Jesus because he's a big part of my life. I knew I had lost Jesus, and I hope that he doesn't lose him either. That he is able to watch me and know my story and know where I came from and what I grew up with and what I had to go through, knowing that he will never lose Jesus and that he'll never lose sight of Jesus. I was told that when we walk with faith, when we walk with Christ, that you'll first see a set of 2 feet, and eventually you will only see one because he would carry you. And right now, I'm carrying my son. I'm carrying my story. This is my son, Jedediah. So thank you guys for hearing me. And thank you all for listening.